All right, so will that affect the ANC's chances at the polls? Only time will tell. Now, one of the things that we do know for sure is that a lot of young people in South Africa have got a stake in what happens in these elections coming up on May the 8th. What we don't know for sure is how many of them will actually show up on voting day. There was a number that did show up on the last day of registration, but one person who's been looking at this and wondering whether it will happen is Gugu Nonjinge, who is a project leader at the RJR. Thanks very much indeed for joining us and welcome to the program. So you wrote an article recently and you're saying that we shouldn't be too optimistic if these young people don't show up to the elections. Why do you think that?
I mean, my only concern is the fact that in as much as political parties and again with government is trying to agitate and of course advocate for young people to participate in the general election, there's still so much to be done. And also, even as though IEC has run a number of digital campaigns again to inform and to encourage young people to participate in the elections, chances are young people are not going to show up at the voting polls because there are a number of reasons that the government, together with the political parties, need to address. And in a way that is intersectional, in a way that addresses youth's concern. And one thing that political parties need to take into consideration is the problem of inclusivity that young people are actually seeking.
All right, so explain this then to us. On the last registration weekend, 81% of the new registrations were people under 30. So, I mean, it takes a bit of effort to go show up to register to vote. Why wouldn't that translate into voting on the day?
I personally believe that in as much as young people have registered to show up at the elections, but they are waiting for that one political party that's going to speak to their problems, that one political party that's going to show up and actually speak and include them in the table in decision-making processes. Between now and May, we still have a couple of days that young people are actually waiting up for the type of person or the type of leader that are actually going to be representative of them. Anything could happen. So it's better to register and know that I'm actually just waiting for someone to actually show up for us as young people, as opposed to me not registering and ending up not voting. So yes, young people have registered, but also I want us to look at the proportion of the young people. In as much as there's 81% of the new registrations are young people, but also how many of those young people are in South Africa of the proportion are actually registered. And there's a significant amount. There's about close to a number of millions of young people that haven't registered. And that's something that the IEC in itself needs to actually take into consideration.
Does this translate into apathy and disinterest or a lack of faith in the election process?
One thing that Afrobarometer tracks is the trust in institutions, and also IEC is one of the institutions. The latest Afrobarometer report has noted that a majority of South Africans are actually non-partisan, meaning that there's very few South Africans that actually identify with political parties, and majority of those people are young people. And in the Afrobarometer, what you've seen also is a decline in trust in the IEC compared to the previous years. And that's something that needs to come into play when they're making decisions. It doesn't translate to political apathy because then young people still form movements outside of formal structures. Reason being of them being included in the structures. So we see them in fees must fall, roads must fall. Those are examples that show that young people are not apathetic, but they just seek inclusion.
All right, so you're suggesting that young people may say that they have other avenues to agitate for change rather than what we think is the most important, which is going to the elections every 5 years.
Definitely, I think as a young person myself, I do not speak for all the young people in South Africa, but I think also when we're trying to see a political party that can represent us, I mean, majority of the population in South Africa is youth, not even South Africa alone, but in the continent at large, about 60% of us constitute of the population in South Africa, a large proportion of it. So now if the leadership in play right now the average person is about 50 years old. So what is representation then? I think that's something we're still grappling with as young people. Yes, we vote a political party into governance and into leadership, but no one actually speaks to our issues. Getting a young person also does not mean inclusivity, does not mean in consultation. What we as young people advocate for is intergenerational conversation, and that's what we want to see in political parties and in the governing structures.
So the political parties will say that, no, we do have policies for the youth. We are trying to communicate with them. Is their message getting lost in translation? Where's the disconnect?
I think, again, the disconnect is in the inclusion. If older leaders are the ones that are creating these policies for young people, then there's no point to it. Reason being, we want to see familiar faces. We want to see people that actually share the same struggle as us as young people in South Africa. And hence, when you get a youth leadership that form part of a political party to speak to us rather than actually engage us, that's when you see young people forming this social movement outside of the process that we actually have in South Africa.
So some people might say, but hang on, we've got young leaders, Musi Maimane, EFF Commander-in-Chief. They are young. They're definitely a different generation to the rest of them. Isn't that enough?
It's definitely not enough. It's definitely not enough, because also even with them, yes, those young leaders, we believe as young people that those are leaders that actually have hidden agendas. In as much as they do say that they advocate for young people, we do not share the same sentiments, and we do not share the same experiences, live experiences rather. When the Afrobarometer tracked partisanship and party identity in its latest survey, actually majority of the people that actually support the EFF are young people. But then again, the majority of these people do identify with the party itself. So it is, again, if it's an EFF side, I think it is more of what is it that we're doing wrong, so much that these young people are not identifying with us. But out of all the political parties, the majority of young people might actually vote. So I think there is a bit of a policy that political leaders and political parties actually take into their table and actually address.
All right, so we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much indeed for your insights. And we certainly hope that the politicians are listening carefully because young people like yourself will make the difference. Thanks so much indeed for your time, Gugu.
Thank you.